Chapter 24. Let Them Laugh. The secret garden was not the only one Dickon worked in. Around the cottage on the moor, there was a patch of ground enclosed by a low wall of rough stones. Early in the morning, late in the fading twilight, and on all the days Colin and Mary did not see him, Dickon worked there. He planted and tended potatoes, cabbages, turnips, carrots, and herbs for his mother. In the company of his animal friends, he did wonders there and never seemed to tire of it. While he dug or weeded, he whistled, sang snippets of Yorkshire moor songs, or talked to Soot, Captain, and the brothers and sisters he had taught to help him.
"We would never get on as comfortably as we do,"
Mrs. Sowerby said.
"If it wasn't for Dickon's garden. Anything will grow for him. His potatoes and cabbages are twice the size of anyone else's, and they have a flavour that nobody else's has."
Whenever she found a spare moment, she liked to go out and talk to him. After supper, there was still a long, clear twilight to work in, and that was her quiet time. She would sit on the low, rough wall, looking on and listening to his stories of the day. She loved this time. There were not only vegetables in this garden. Every now and then, Dickon had bought penny packets of flower seeds and sown bright, sweet-scented plants among the gooseberry bushes and even the cabbages. He grew borders of mignonette, pinks, and pansies, flowers whose seeds he could save year after year, or whose roots would bloom each spring and eventually spread into fine clumps. The low wall was one of the prettiest sights in Yorkshire because he had tucked moorland foxgloves, ferns, rock cress, and hedgerow flowers into every crevice, until the stones could only be seen in a few places.
"All a person has to do to make them thrive, Mother,"
he would say,
"is to be friends with them for sure. They are just like the animals. If they are thirsty, give them a drink, and if they are hungry, give them a bit of food. They want to live just like we do. If they died, I would feel like I had been a bad lad and somehow treated them heartlessly."
It was during these twilight hours that Mrs. Sowerby heard about everything happening at Misselthwaite Manor. At first, she was only told that Master Colin had taken a fancy to going out into the grounds with Miss Mary, and that it was doing him good. But it was not long before the two children agreed that Dickon's mother could be let in on the secret. Somehow, they never doubted that she was completely trustworthy. So one beautiful, still evening, Dickon told her the whole story. He shared all the thrilling details: the buried key, the robin, the grey haze of branches that had looked dead, and the secret Mary had planned never to reveal. He told her about his own arrival, how the secret was shared with him, Colin's doubts, and the final drama of introducing Colin to the hidden garden. Combined with the story of Ben Weatherstaff's angry face peering over the wall and Colin's sudden, indignant strength, the tale made Mrs. Sowerby's pleasant face change color several times.
"My word,"
she said.
"It was a good thing that little girl came to the manor. It has been the making of her and the saving of him, standing on his feet, and all of us thinking he was a poor, helpless lad without a straight bone in his body."
She asked a great many questions, and her blue eyes were full of deep thought.
"What do they make of it at the manor, with him being so well and cheerful and never complaining?"
she inquired.
"They don't know what to make of it,"
answered Dickon.
"Every day that comes around, his face looks different. It is filling out. It doesn't look so sharp, and that waxy color is going away. But he still has to do his bit of complaining,"
he added with a highly amused grin.
"What for in mercy's name?"
asked Mrs. Sowerby. Dickon chuckled.
"He does it to keep them from guessing what has happened. If the doctor knew Colin had found out he could stand on his feet, he would likely write and tell Master Craven. Master Colin is saving the secret to tell him himself. He's going to practice his magic on his legs every day until his father comes back, and then he is going to march into his room and show him he is as straight as other boys. But he and Miss Mary think it's the best plan to do a bit of groaning and fretting now and then, just to throw people off the scent."
Mrs. Sowerby was laughing a soft, comfortable laugh long before he finished his last sentence.
"Oh,
she said.
that pair is enjoying themselves, ill warrant. They will get a lot of fun out of acting, and there is nothing children like as much as play acting. Let's hear what they do, Dickon lad.
Dickon stopped weeding and sat back on his heels to tell her. His eyes were twinkling with fun.
Master Colin is carried down to his chair every time he goes out.
He explained.
And he snaps at John, the footman, for not carrying him carefully enough. He makes himself look as helpless as he can and never lifts his head until we are out of sight of the house. He grunts and frets a lot when he is being settled into his chair. He and Miss Mary have both started enjoying the game, and when he groans and complains, she will say, "Poor Colin, does it hurt you so much? Are you really that weak, poor Colin?" But the trouble is, sometimes they can scarcely keep from bursting out laughing. When we get safely into the garden, they laugh until they have no breath left. They even have to stuff their faces into Master Colin's cushions to keep the gardeners from hearing, if any of them are nearby.
The more they laugh, the better for them.
Mrs. Sowerby said, still laughing herself.
Good, healthy children's laughter is better than pills any day of the year. That pair will plump up for sure.
They are plumping up,
said Dickon.
They are so hungry they don't know how to get enough to eat without causing talk. Master Colin says if he keeps sending for more food, people won't believe he is an invalid at all. Miss Mary says she'll let him eat her share, but he says if she goes hungry she will get thin, and they must both get fat at the same time.
Mrs. Sowerby laughed so heartily at the revelation of this dilemma that she rocked backward and forward in her blue cloak, and Dickon laughed with her.
"I'll tell you what, lad,"
Mrs. Sowerby said when she could speak.
"I've thought of a way to help them. When you go to them in the mornings, you shall take a pail of good fresh milk, and I'll bake them a crusty cottage loaf or some currant buns, just like the ones you children love. Nothing is as good as fresh milk and bread. That way they can take the edge off their hunger while they are in the garden, and the fine food they get indoors will finish off the corners."
"Ah, Mother,"
Dickon said admiringly.
"what a wonder you are. You always see a way out of things. They were in quite a worry yesterday. They didn't see how they were going to manage without ordering more food. They felt so empty inside."
They are two young ones growing fast, and health is coming back to both of them. Children like that feel like young wolves, and food is flesh and blood to them.
Mrs. Sowerby said, then she smiled Dickon's own curving smile.
"Ah, but they are enjoying themselves for sure,"
she said. She was quite right, this comfortable, wonderful motherly woman, and she had never been more correct than when she said their play acting would bring them joy. Colin and Mary found it to be one of their most thrilling sources of entertainment. The idea of protecting themselves from suspicion had first been unconsciously suggested to them by the puzzled nurse, and then by Dr. Craven himself.
"Your appetite is improving very much, Master Colin,"
the nurse had said one day.
"You used to eat nothing, and so many things disagreed with you."
"Nothing disagrees with me now,"
replied Colin. But then, seeing the nurse look at him curiously, he suddenly remembered that perhaps he shouldn't appear too well just yet.
"At least things don't disagree with me as often. It's the fresh air."
"Perhaps it is,"
said the nurse, still looking at him with a mystified expression.
"but I must talk to Dr. Craven about it."
How she stared at you, Mary said when the nurse had gone, as if she thought there was something to find out.
"I won't have her finding out anything or suspecting.
Colin said.
No one must begin to suspect yet."
When Dr. Craven came that morning, he seemed puzzled too. He asked a number of questions, to Colin's great annoyance.
"You stay out in the garden a great deal.
He suggested.
Where do you go?"
Colin put on his favorite air of dignified indifference.
"I will not let anyone know where I go.
He answered.
I go to a place I like. Everyone has orders to keep out of the way. I won't be watched and stared at. You know that."
You seem to be out all day, but I do not think it has done you any harm. No, I do not think so. The nurse says that you eat much more than you ever did before.
Perhaps.
Said Colin, prompted by a sudden inspiration.
Perhaps it is an unnatural appetite.
I do not think so, since your food seems to agree with you.
Dr. Craven said.
You are gaining weight rapidly, and your color is much better.
Perhaps I am bloated and feverish.
Colin said, putting on a discouraging air of gloom.
People who are not going to live are often different.
Dr. Craven shook his head. He was holding Colin's wrist, and he pushed up the boy's sleeve to feel his arm.
You are not feverish.
He said thoughtfully.
And the weight you have gained is healthy. If you can keep this up, my boy, we won't need to talk of dying. Your father will be happy to hear of this remarkable improvement.
I won't have him told.
Colin broke out fiercely.
It will only disappoint him if I get worse again, and I might get worse this very night. I could have a raging fever. I feel as if I might be starting one right now. I won't have letters written to my father. I won't. You are making me angry, and you know that is bad for me. I feel hot already. I hate being written about and discussed just as much as I hate being stared at.
Hush, my boy.
Dr. Craven soothed him.
Nothing will be written without your permission. You are too sensitive. You must not undo the good that has already been done.
He said no more about writing to Mr. Craven, and when he spoke with the nurse, he privately warned her that the subject must not be mentioned to the patient.
The boy is extraordinarily better.
He said.
His progress seems almost unbelievable, but of course, he is now doing of his own free will what we could not force him to do before. Still, he gets excited very easily, and nothing must be said to irritate him.
Mary and Colin were very alarmed and talked together anxiously. From this moment on, they began their plan of play acting.
I might be forced to have a tantrum.
Colin said regretfully.
I don't want to have one, and I'm not miserable enough now to work myself up into a big one. Perhaps I couldn't even manage it anymore. That lump doesn't come into my throat now, and I keep thinking of nice things instead of horrible ones. But if they talk about writing to my father, I will have to do something.
He resolved to eat less, but unfortunately it was impossible to carry out this brilliant idea. Every morning he woke up with a ravenous appetite, and the table near his sofa was set with a breakfast of homemade bread, fresh butter, snow-white eggs, raspberry jam, and clotted cream. Mary always had breakfast with him, and when they sat down at the table, especially if there were thin slices of sizzling ham sending tempting aromas from under a hot silver cover, they would look into each other's eyes in despair.
I think we will have to eat it all this morning, Mary.
Colin would always end up saying.
We can send away some of our lunch and a lot of our dinner.
But they never found they could send anything away, and the clean, empty plates returned to the pantry sparked a lot of comments.
I do wish.
Colin would also say.
I do wish the slices of ham were thicker, and one muffin each is really not enough for anyone.
It's enough for a person who is going to die. Mary answered when she first heard this. But it's not enough for a person who is going to live. I sometimes feel as if I could eat 3 of them when those fresh heather and gorse scents from the moor come pouring in through the open window. One morning, after they had been enjoying themselves in the garden for about 2 hours, Dickon went behind a large rose bush. He brought out 2 tin pails. One was full of rich, fresh milk with cream on top, and the other held homemade currant buns wrapped in a clean blue and white napkin, tucked in so carefully that they were still hot. The children were overjoyed and filled with surprise. What a wonderful thing for Mrs. Sowerby to think of. What a kind, clever woman she must be. How good the buns tasted, and how delicious the fresh milk was.
Magic is in her, just as it is in Dickon.
Colin said.
It makes her think of ways to do things, wonderful things. She is a magic person. Tell her we are grateful, Dickon, extremely grateful.
He was fond of using rather grown-up phrases at times. He enjoyed them, and he liked this one so much that he tried to make it sound even grander.
Tell her she has been most generous, and our gratitude is extreme.
Then, forgetting his grand manner, he dug in, stuffing himself with buns and drinking large gulps of milk straight from the pail. He looked like any other hungry boy who had been exercising, breathing in the fresh moorland air, and whose breakfast was more than 2 hours behind him. This was the beginning of many wonderful moments. Eventually, they realized that since Mrs. Sowerby had 14 people of her own to feed, she might not have enough to satisfy 2 extra appetites every day. So they asked her to let them send some of their pocket money to buy supplies. Dickon made an exciting discovery. In the woods outside the garden, near where Mary had first found him playing his pipe to the wild animals, there was a deep little hollow. There, they could build a tiny stone oven and roast potatoes and eggs. Roasted eggs were a luxury they had never tried before, and piping hot potatoes with salt and fresh butter were fit for a king, besides being wonderfully filling. They could buy their own potatoes and eggs, eating as many as they liked without feeling as if they were taking food away from Mrs. Sowerby's large family. Every beautiful morning, they performed their magic ceremony in a circle under the plum tree, which now provided a canopy of thick green leaves since its brief blossoming time had ended. After the ceremony, Colin always practiced walking, and throughout the day he exercised his newly found strength at regular intervals. Each day he grew stronger, walked more steadily, and covered more ground. And each day his belief in the magic grew stronger, as well it might. He tried one challenge after another as he felt himself gaining strength, and it was Dickon who showed him the best exercises of all.
Yesterday.
Dickon said one morning after being away.
I went athwait for Mother, and near the Blue Cow Inn I saw Bob Howarth. He's the strongest chap on the moor. He's the champion wrestler. He can jump higher than anyone else and throw the hammer farther. He's even gone all the way to Scotland for the sports games before. He's known me ever since I was a little kid, and he's a friendly guy, so I asked him some questions. The gentry calls him an athlete, and I thought of you, Master Colin. I said, how did you make your muscles stick out that way, Bob? Did you do anything extra to make yourself so strong? And he said, well, yes, lad, I did. A strong man in a show that came to Thwaite once showed me how to exercise my arms, legs, and every muscle in my body. And I said, could a delicate chap make himself stronger with them, Bob? He laughed and said, are you that delicate chap? And I said, no, but I know a young gentleman who is recovering from a long illness, and I wish I knew some of those tricks to tell him about. I didn't mention any names, and he didn't ask. He's friendly, just like I said, and he stood up and showed me in a good-natured way. I copied what he did until I knew it by heart.
Colin had been listening excitedly.
Can you show me?
He cried.
Will you?
Yes, to be sure.
Dickon answered, getting up.
But he says you must do them gently at first and be careful not to tire yourself. Rest in between exercises, take deep breaths, and don't overdo it.
I'll be careful.
Said Colin.
Show me, show me. Dickon, you are the most magic boy in the world.
Dickon stood up on the grass and slowly went through a practical but simple series of muscle exercises. Colin watched him with wide eyes. He could do a few of them while sitting down. Soon, he did a few gently while standing on his own steady feet. Mary began to do them, too. Soot, who was watching the performance, became quite concerned. He left his branch and hopped around restlessly, frustrated that he couldn't join in. From that day on, the exercises were as much a part of their daily routine as the magic was. It became possible for both Colin and Mary to do more of them each time they tried. These workouts gave them such massive appetites that, if it weren't for the basket Dickon brought and hid behind the bush every morning, their secret would have been exposed. But the little oven in the hollow and Mrs. Sowerby's generous treats were so satisfying that Mrs. Medlock, the nurse, and Dr. Craven were left completely mystified again. It is easy to toy with your breakfast and pretend to dislike your dinner when you are already full of roasted eggs, hot potatoes, rich fresh milk, oat cakes, buns, heather honey, and clotted cream,
They are eating next to nothing.
said the nurse.
They will die of starvation if they can't be persuaded to eat some proper food. And yet, look at how healthy they seem. Look,
Mrs. Medlock exclaimed indignantly.
I am worried to death about them. They are a pair of young rascals. They are bursting out of their clothes one day, and the next, they are turning up their noses at the best meals the cook can prepare. They didn't touch a single bite of that lovely roast chicken and bread sauce yesterday, and the poor cook even invented a special pudding for them, only for it to be sent back untouched. She almost cried. She's terrified she'll be blamed if they starve themselves into their graves.
Dr. Craven came and looked at Colin long and carefully. He looked extremely worried when the nurse showed him the almost untouched breakfast tray she had saved for him to inspect. But his worry deepened even more when he sat down by Colin's sofa to examine the boy. He had been called to London on business and had not seen Colin for nearly 2 weeks. When young people begin to recover their health, they do so rapidly. The waxy look had vanished from Colin's skin, replaced by a warm, rosy glow. His beautiful eyes were clear, and the hollows under them, as well as in his cheeks and temples, had filled out. His dark, thick hair now looked healthy and full of life. His lips were fuller and had a healthy color. In fact, as an imitation of a sick, bedridden invalid, he was a complete failure. Dr. Craven rested his chin in his hand, thinking it over.
I am sorry to hear that you are not eating anything.
He said.
That won't do. You will lose all the progress you have made, and you have improved amazingly. You ate so well a short time ago.
I told you it was an unnatural appetite.
Colin answered. Mary was sitting on her stool nearby, and she suddenly made a very strange noise. She tried so hard to hold it in that she ended up almost choking.
What is the matter?
Dr. Craven asked, turning to look at her. Mary put on a very serious expression. It was something between a sneeze and a cough. She replied with reproachful dignity. And it got caught in my throat. But she said to Colin later, I couldn't help myself. It just burst out because I suddenly remembered that last big potato you ate, and the way your mouth stretched when you bit through that thick, wonderful crust with jam and clotted cream on it.
Is there any way these children could be getting food secretly?
Dr. Craven asked Mrs. Medlock.
There's no way unless they are digging it out of the earth or picking it off the trees.
Mrs. Medlock answered.
They stay out in the gardens all day and see no one but each other. And if they wanted anything different to eat, they would only have to ask for it. Well,
Dr. Craven said.
As long as going without food seems to agree with them, we don't need to worry. The boy is like a new creature. So is the girl.
Mrs. Medlock agreed.
She's actually starting to look pretty since she filled out and lost her sour expression. Her hair has grown thick and healthy, and she has a bright color in her cheeks. She used to be the most gloomy, bad-tempered little thing, and now she and Master Colin laugh together like a pair of happy, silly children. Perhaps they are growing fat on that. Perhaps they are.
Dr. Craven said.
Let them laugh.
Chapter 25, The Curtain. The secret garden bloomed and bloomed, and every morning revealed new miracles. In the robin's nest there were eggs, and the robin's mate sat upon them, keeping them warm with her soft, feathery breast and careful wings. At first she was very nervous, and the robin himself watched over her with fierce protectiveness. Even Dickon did not go near their quiet corner in those days. Instead, he waited until, through the silent working of some mysterious spell, he had reassured the little birds. He made them feel that everything in the garden was just like them, and that everyone understood the wonder of what was happening, the immense, tender, overwhelming, and heartbreaking beauty of those eggs. If even one person in that garden had not known in their very soul that taking or hurting an egg would make the whole world spin out of control and crash through space to its end. If anyone had failed to feel this and act accordingly, there could have been no happiness in that golden spring air. But they all knew it and felt it, and the robin and his mate knew that they understood. At first, the robin watched Mary and Colin with sharp anxiety. For some mysterious reason, he knew he didn't need to watch Dickon. The very first moment he set his bright, dew-like black eye on Dickon, he knew he was not a stranger. He was just a kind of robin without a beak or feathers. Dickon could speak the robin language, which is distinct and unmistakable. To speak robin to a robin is like speaking French to a Frenchman. Dickon always spoke it to the bird, so the strange gibberish he used with humans didn't matter at all. The robin assumed he spoke this gibberish to them because they weren't smart enough to understand feathered speech. Dickon's movements were also very robin-like. He never startled anyone with sudden, threatening gestures. Any robin could understand Dickon, so his presence was not disturbing in the least. But at first, it seemed necessary to be on guard against the other two. To begin with, the boy creature did not enter the garden on his own two legs. He was pushed in on a wheeled contraption, covered in the skins of wild animals. That by itself was suspicious. Then, when he began to stand up and move around, he did it in a strange, awkward way, and the others had to help him. The robin used to hide in a bush and watch this anxiously, tilting his head from side to side. He worried that the slow movements meant the boy was preparing to pounce, the way cats do. When cats are getting ready to spring, they creep over the ground very slowly. The robin talked this over with his mate for a few days, but then he decided to drop the subject. Her terror was so great that he feared it might harm the eggs. When the boy began to walk by himself and even move more quickly, it was an immense relief. But for a long time, or at least it felt long to the robin, he remained a source of anxiety. He did not behave like other humans. He seemed very fond of walking, but he had a habit of sitting or lying down for a while, and then suddenly getting up in a startling way to start walking again. One day, the robin remembered that when his parents taught him to fly, he had done almost the same thing. He had taken short flights of a few yards and then had to rest. So, it occurred to him that this boy was learning to fly, or rather, to walk. He mentioned this to his mate. When he told her that their own eggs would probably do the same thing once they grew feathers, she was completely comforted. She even became eagerly interested and enjoyed watching the boy over the edge of her nest, though she was sure her own eggs would be much smarter and learn faster. Still, she remarked indulgently that humans were always clumsier and slower than eggs, and most of them never seemed to learn to fly at all. After all, you never met them in the air or on the treetops. After a while, the boy began to move around just like the others, but all three children still did unusual things at times. They would stand under the trees and move their arms, legs, and heads in a way that was neither walking, running, nor sitting down. They practiced these movements every day at regular intervals. The robin could never explain to his mate what they were doing or trying to do. He could only say he was sure their eggs would never flap about like that. However, since the boy who spoke fluent robin was doing it too, they could be sure it was not dangerous. Of course, neither the robin nor his mate had ever heard of the champion wrestler, Bob Howarth, or his exercises for building muscle. Robins are not like human beings. Their muscles are exercised from the very beginning, so they develop naturally. When you have to fly around to find every single meal, your muscles never waste away from lack of use. Once the boy was walking, running, digging, and weeding like the others, a great peace and contentment settled over the nest in the corner. Fears for the eggs became a thing of the past. Knowing the eggs were as safe as if they were locked in a bank vault, combined with having so many interesting things to watch, made sitting on the nest a highly entertaining job. On rainy days, the mother bird actually felt a little bored because the children did not come into the garden. But even on rainy days, Mary and Colin were far from bored. One morning, as the rain poured down without stopping, Colin was starting to feel a bit restless. He had to stay on his sofa because it wasn't safe for him to walk around the house yet. That was when Mary had a brilliant idea.
Now that I am a real boy,
Colin said,
my arms, legs, and my whole body are so full of magic that I can't keep still. They want to be active all the time. Mary, do you know that when I wake up in the morning, when it's early and the birds are singing loudly outside, and everything seems to be shouting for joy, even the trees and things we can't actually hear, I feel like I have to jump out of bed and shout too. If I did that, just think of what would happen.
Mary giggled uncontrollably. The nurse and Mrs. Medlock would come running. She said, "They'd be sure you had lost your mind, and they'd send for the doctor immediately." Colin laughed too. He could picture exactly how they would look, how horrified they would be by his sudden outburst, and how amazed to see him standing on his own 2 feet.
I wish my father would come home.
He said,
I want to tell him myself. I think about it all the time. We can't keep this up much longer anyway. I can't stand lying still and pretending anymore, and besides, I look completely different now. I wish it weren't raining today.
That was when Mary had her inspiration. "Collins," she began mysteriously. "Do you know how many rooms there are in this house?"
About 1,000, I suppose.
He answered. "There are about 100 rooms that no one ever enters." Mary said, "In one rainy day, I went and explored a lot of them. No one ever found out, though Mrs. Medlock almost caught me. I lost my way on my way back and stopped at the end of your corridor. That was the second time I heard you crying." Colin sat up quickly on his sofa.
100 rooms no one goes into.
He said,
That sounds almost like a secret garden. Let's go and look at them. Wheel me in my chair and nobody will know we're gone.
"That's exactly what I was thinking." Mary said, "No one would dare to follow us. There are long galleries where you could run, and we can do our exercises there. There is a little Indian room with a cabinet full of ivory elephants and all sorts of other rooms."
Ring the bell.
Colin said. When the nurse came in, he gave his orders.
I want my wheelchair.
He said,
Miss Mary and I are going to look at the unused part of the house. John can push me as far as the picture gallery, since there are stairs. After that, he must leave us alone until I send for him.
Rainy days lost all their gloom that morning. Once the footman had wheeled the chair into the picture gallery and left them alone as ordered, Colin and Mary looked at each other with delight. As soon as Mary made sure that John was safely back downstairs, Colin got out of his chair.
I am going to run from one end of the gallery to the other.
He said,
And then I am going to jump, and then we will do Bob Howarth's exercises.
They did all of those things, and many more. They looked at the portraits and found the plain little girl dressed in green brocade, holding the parrot on her finger.
All these people must be my relatives.
Colin said,
They lived a long time ago. The one with the parrot is, I think, one of my great-great-great-great-aunts. She looks a bit like you, Mary, not as you look now, but how you looked when you first arrived. You are much healthier and better looking now.
So are you. Mary replied, and they both laughed. They went to the Indian room and played with the ivory elephants. They found the rose-colored brocade sitting room and the hole in the cushion that the mouse had made, but the mice had grown up and run away, leaving the hole empty. They explored more rooms and made far more discoveries than Mary had on her first journey. They found new corridors, hidden corners, flights of stairs, old paintings they liked, and strange antique objects they didn't know how to use. It was a wonderful, entertaining morning. The feeling of wandering through the same house as everyone else, yet feeling miles away from them, was absolutely fascinating.
I am glad we came.
Colin said,
I never knew I lived in such a huge, strange old place. I like it. We'll explore it every rainy day. We'll always find new, interesting corners and objects.
All that activity gave them such a good appetite that when they returned to Colin's room, they didn't leave a single bite of their lunch untouched. When the nurse carried the tray back downstairs, she set it down on the kitchen counter with a thump, making sure Mrs. Loomis, the cook, could see the clean, empty plates.
Look at that.
She said,
This house is full of mysteries, and those 2 children are the biggest mysteries of all. if they keep eating like that every day.
Said John, the strong young footman.
It's no wonder he weighs twice as much as he did a month ago. Before long, I'll have to quit my job for fear of throwing my back out.
That afternoon, Mary noticed something different in Colin's room. She had spotted it the day before but hadn't said anything, thinking it might have happened by accident. She didn't speak now either, but sat looking intently at the portrait over the fireplace. She could see it clearly because the curtain had been drawn back. That was the change she noticed.
I know what you want me to tell you.
Colin said, after she had stared for a few minutes.
I always know when you want to ask me something. You're wondering why the curtain is drawn back. I'm going to keep it that way.
Why? Mary asked.
Because it doesn't make me angry to see her laughing anymore. 2 nights ago, I woke up in the bright moonlight. I felt as if the magic was filling the room and making everything so beautiful that I couldn't stay in bed. I got up and looked out the window. The room was quite bright and a patch of moonlight fell right on the curtain. Somehow that made me go over and pull the cord. She looked right down at me, and she seemed to be laughing because she was glad I was standing there. Now I like looking at her. I want to see her laughing like that all the time. I think she must have been a magical person.
You look so much like her now. Mary said. That sometimes I think you are her ghost turned into a boy. That idea seemed to strike Colin. He thought it over, then answered slowly.
If I were her ghost, my father would love me.
He said. Do you want him to love you? Mary asked.
I used to hate that he didn't care for me. If he grew fond of me, I think I would tell him about the magic. It might make him happier.